What if one boy's quiet mind could change the way billions of people live, work, and think across the entire world? What if this boy didn't dream of being famous but dreamed of teaching a machine how to think like a human? This is not a movie or a comic book story. This is the real journey of Bill Gates, the boy who turned code into history. In a quiet city called Seattle, something special began. In 1955, a boy named William was born in a warm, book-filled home. Most called him Bill. He was small, calm, and curious. His eyes watched everything. His ears listened more than they spoke. While other boys played ball outside, Bill stayed inside surrounded by books, puzzles, and questions. His father, William Sr., was a lawyer. He believed in rules and hard work, but also believed in giving space to grow. His mother, Mary, worked with schools. She gave her time to help others and made sure Bill never stopped asking why. Even before school, Bill was reading maps, charts, and history books. He could focus for hours, lost in a sea of knowledge. In school, teachers noticed him. He didn't just answer questions, he asked better ones. He was always a step ahead. Math was his favorite. He liked numbers because they always told the truth. He could solve problems faster than anyone. One day, Bill found a book about machines. It was old and dusty, but to him, it was more exciting than any toy. He read about engines, gears, and even something called a computer. Back then, that word was strange to most people. Bill didn't stop reading. He kept digging deeper. He wanted to know not just what things did, but how and why they worked. At home, he took apart clocks, radios, and toys. Sometimes they never worked again, but he learned something each time. His parents began to worry. He didn't go out much. He didn't talk a lot, but he smiled when he read or solved problems. He was not lonely. He was exploring inside his own mind, and it was full of questions no one else around him was asking. In 8th grade, something big happened. The school bought a computer. It was the size of a desk and cost more than a car. Most students walked past it without care. But Bill froze when he saw it. His eyes lit up. He had never seen anything like it. The keys felt strange. The screen blinked slowly. But Bill was in love. It was like meeting a new language he wanted to speak. He begged for more time with it. After class, during lunch, even before school began, he wanted to learn what it could do. He met Paul there. Paul was older and smarter in some ways, but they both spoke the same language, computer code. They became a team. They stayed late writing programs, finding bugs, and laughing when the code finally worked. While others studied history, Bill studied logic. While others joined clubs, Bill joined circuits and code. Bill told Paul one day, every house will have a computer. Paul smiled, but others laughed. They thought he was joking. Back then, computers were for rich companies. They filled rooms and needed special care. No one imagined them in homes, but Bill did. He saw the future not as it was but as it could be. He believed the world would change and he would help do it. His parents hoped he'd be a lawyer like his dad, but he had another vision. A machine that listens, learns, and helps people. He wasn't chasing money. He was chasing possibility. And he wasn't doing it alone. Paul was right there with him. Together, they built simple tools. First, small programs for school. Then bigger ideas to help solve real problems. Every failure taught them. Every crash became a clue. Bill didn't fear mistakes. He welcomed them as teachers. The boy from the quiet room was now building doors into the future. He was not just learning, he was creating something new. And this was just the beginning. The road ahead was long, but Bill Gates had already started walking. Part 2. The path to Harvard and the big decision. By the time Bill turned 17, he had already spent years coding, learning, and building ideas with his closest friend, Paul Allen. They were no longer just kids playing with machines. They were becoming young thinkers who saw a future that few could imagine. Bill entered Lakeside School, one of the best in Seattle. There, he had more time with computers and more freedom to explore. The school noticed his talent. They gave him extra time to use the machine. He wrote code, fixed bugs, and taught others. He helped improve the school's system. Once, he made a program to help plan classes. It was simple, but helpful. Bill used the school's early access to a big computer company. He and Paul tested systems and found errors others missed. They were offered time in exchange for feedback. While most teens played games, Bill and Paul played with data and logic. He was learning how to lead, how to think bigger, and how to work with people to build something useful and lasting. At age 18, Bill was accepted into Harvard University. It was one of the best schools in the world. His family was proud. He packed his books and said goodbye to Seattle. But he brought his love of code with him. It was still his true passion. Harvard was full of smart people. But even there, Bill stood out. He asked deeper questions. He pushed past limits. He studied math and computer science. He was serious, but also full of energy. He spent late nights solving problems. But something inside him was unsettled. He loved Harvard, but he kept thinking about the world outside the classroom. Meanwhile, Paul Allen moved to Boston, near Harvard. He worked in tech and kept reading about new machines and trends. One day, Paul showed Bill a magazine. The cover showed a small computer called the Altair 8800. It was cheap and powerful. "This is it," Paul said. "This is what we've been waiting for." Bill's eyes widened. He knew this could change everything. No one had written software for the Altair yet. It was a blank page, a chance to build something first, something big. They wrote to the makers of Altair. They promised they could build a working language system, even though they hadn't yet. Bill and Paul stayed up for weeks. They worked nonstop. They had no room to fail. If it didn't work, the door would close. Finally, the day came. Paul flew to show their code. The demo worked. Altair was impressed. They wanted more. It was the proof they needed. Not just that the code worked, but that the world was ready for software made by young minds. Bill had a choice to make. Stay in Harvard and finish his degree, or drop out and build a company that didn't yet exist. It was not an easy choice. Harvard was safe. It was respected. But Bill didn't want to be safe. He wanted to create. He called his parents. He told them he wanted to leave. They were shocked at first, but they trusted his heart and mind. In 1975, Bill Gates left Harvard to build something the world had never seen, a company made for the future of computing. He and Paul called it Microsoft. It stood for microcomputer software. Two young men, one giant dream. They didn't have a big office. They didn't have lots of money, but they had time, skill, and belief. Bill took on many roles. He wrote code, called clients, fixed problems, and made deals. Every day was a risk, but they didn't stop. The dream was too strong, the idea too powerful, and Bill's focus too sharp to fail. Part 3. Building Microsoft from scratch. In 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen officially started their company. They called it Microsoft. It was small but full of energy. Their first office was tiny, just a few desks, wires, and noisy machines. But their ideas were loud, and their dreams louder. They moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's where Altair's company was. It made sense to be near their first big partner. Bill was just 19. He wore simple clothes, often forgot to eat, and worked late into the night. He didn't care about fame. He cared about code. Every line, every bug, every fix, it all mattered. He wanted software to be clean, smart, and useful. Paul worked beside him. They took turns writing, testing, and calling companies. They believed this small office could grow. Microsoft's first product was basic for the Altair. It worked. Other computer makers started to ask for software too. Money was tight. They didn't pay themselves much. Every dollar went back into the company for better tools and more ideas. Bill handled the business side too. He made sure people paid for the software. He fought hard against software piracy. He believed creators should be paid for their work. It wasn't just business, it was about respect for effort and talent. As more small computers came out, Microsoft offered software for them. Each new deal was a new step forward. They were not alone. Other companies were growing too. But Bill had something different, an obsession with quality and speed. He read every line of code that came from his team. He worked long hours. He asked tough questions and pushed people hard. Some said he was too intense. But he didn't care. He wanted the best. And he knew the world of software needed leaders. In 1979, Microsoft moved to Bellevue, Washington. It was closer to home, and the company was finally making real money. They had 10 employees, then 20, then more. The office grew. So did the pressure. Bill was now a real CEO, but he didn't change much. He still wore simple clothes, still worked weekends, still chased perfection in every product. Bill said, "I choose a lazy person to do a hard job, because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." He meant that smart software should make life simpler. It should solve hard problems in the easiest possible way. One of the biggest moments came in 1980. IBM, the world's top computer company, came to Microsoft with a big offer. They needed an operating system for a new personal computer. Fast, simple, reliable, and Microsoft had to deliver it soon. Microsoft didn't have an OS ready, but Bill made a bold move. He said yes. He believed they could figure it out. Then, he found a small company that had what they needed. Microsoft bought the system, changed it, and made it their own. The result was MS-DOS. It was basic, but powerful. IBM liked it. The deal was done, and Microsoft's future changed forever. That deal didn't just bring money. It brought trust. Big companies now saw Microsoft as a serious player in tech. Bill didn't relax. He pushed harder. He wanted to make software not just for one machine but for every home and office. He dreamed of a world where computers were like phones or TVs, common, helpful, and full of Microsoft programs. And this was just the beginning. Bill was about to take Microsoft into its next chapter, one that would shape the entire world. Part for Windows, power, and the rise of a tech giant. The deal with IBM brought Microsoft into the spotlight. But Bill Gates knew one product was not enough to lead the future. MS-DOS was powerful, but it was also hard to use. Users had to type commands. Bill wanted something easier and visual. He dreamed of a system with windows, icons, and a mouse. A world where people clicked, dragged, and worked with pictures. This idea became Windows, a new kind of operating system, simple for users, but built with deep and complex code. It wasn't the first of its kind. Apple had a graphical system too, but Bill believed he could make it better and more open. He wanted Windows to run on many kinds of computers, not just one brand. That made it flexible and useful for everyone. The first version of Windows came out in 1985. It was slow and basic. Many people didn't like it, but Bill didn't stop. He saw the big picture. He listened, learned, and worked with his team to improve it. Every version was better than before. By 1990, Windows 3.0 became a hit. It had color, better design, and new features. It changed how people used computers. Sales exploded. Microsoft was no longer just a small company. It was becoming the leader in the software world. More people bought PCs. More people needed Windows. And Microsoft kept growing. Fast, big, strong. Bill became one of the youngest billionaires in history. But he still came to the office early and left late. He walked around asking tough questions. He knew the details. He read memos, answered emails, and studied trends. He believed in staying sharp. He read books every week. Books on science, health, economics, and the future. Microsoft launched more products: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, tools for school, business, and personal life. Each tool had one goal: make people more productive. Bill believed software could give people power to achieve more. But success brought challenges. Other companies didn't like Microsoft's power. Some said Bill was too controlling. In the mid-90s, Microsoft faced lawsuits. Some governments said the company was becoming too big and unfair to others. Bill stood firm. He gave interviews. He spoke in court. He said Microsoft was not killing competition, it was driving progress. The legal fight was long and hard. It showed a different side of Bill, calm under pressure, but also deeply driven. Even during this, Microsoft launched Windows 95. It was a global event. People lined up at midnight just to buy it. Windows 95 changed everything. It was fast, colorful, and connected to the internet. A door to a new digital world. Bill's dream was coming true. Computers were now part of daily life. In schools, homes, offices, and even pockets. Microsoft was a giant, and Bill was its brain. But he was not done yet. He still had ideas, still had questions to answer. He once said, "Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning." He wanted to keep learning. The next frontier was the internet, and Bill was ready to lead again. Part 5. The Internet Revolution and New Challenges. As the world moved into the late 1990s, something big was happening. A new kind of connection was rising: the internet. People began to see computers not just as tools, but as gateways, a way to talk, learn, shop, and explore from anywhere. Bill Gates saw this shift. He knew the internet would change everything. But at first, Microsoft was slow to react. Other companies moved faster. Netscape built a popular web browser. People began to ask if Microsoft had lost its edge. Bill didn't panic. He studied the trend. Then, in 1995, he wrote a powerful memo. He called it the Internet Tidal Wave. In it, he warned his team. He said the internet was the most important change since the personal computer itself. He ordered a full shift. Every Microsoft product must connect to the internet. Every team had to adapt quickly. Soon after, Microsoft launched Internet Explorer. It was built into Windows. People around the world began to use it. This move sparked another legal storm. Rivals said it was unfair to include a browser with Windows. Courts got involved again. Bill stood firm. He said users wanted simple tools in one place. The battle lasted years, but Microsoft held its ground. Meanwhile, the internet kept growing. So did Microsoft. They built tools for websites, email, and online security. Bill watched the world change. Offices went online. Schools used digital lessons. Families sent emails across the world. But with growth came stress. Bill was no longer just a programmer. He was leading a global company with thousands of workers. He missed the deep focus of coding. Meetings, reports, and public talks filled his days. He began to think about what came next. In 2000, Bill made a major move. He stepped down as CEO. He gave the job to Steve Ballmer, his longtime friend and partner. Bill didn't leave the company. He became chief software architect. He still shaped the future, but now with more freedom. This change gave him time to think beyond business, to think about the world's biggest problems: health, poverty, education. He had money, he had knowledge, and now he had time. It was the perfect moment to start something new, together with his wife at the time. Bill started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Its mission was clear: help those in need. They looked at where the world was hurting most: Africa, Asia, poor areas with little health care, dirty water, and hunger. The foundation gave billions to fight disease, build schools, and train teachers. It worked with scientists, doctors, and farmers. Bill believed technology wasn't just for profit. It was for progress. It could save lives, not just make money. He said, as we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. That became his new goal. Back at Microsoft, the company kept growing. Windows XP was a big success. So were Office tools and enterprise products. But the tech world was shifting again. New players were rising: Google, Apple, and startups with fresh ideas and bold moves. Bill watched closely. He knew that staying at the top wasn't easy. Innovation had to be constant. Speed mattered more than size. Still, Microsoft held strong, thanks to the foundation he had built both in code and in culture. Bill Gates was no longer just the computer kid from Seattle. He was now a world leader in tech and in giving. And yet, the story was far from over. Part 6: Legacy, Leadership, and a Changing World. By the early 2000s, Bill Gates had already achieved more than most people could dream. But he wasn't slowing down. He no longer needed to prove himself. He had built a tech empire. Now, his focus shifted to something deeper: his legacy. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation became one of the largest in the world. Its mission grew year by year. They fought diseases like malaria, polio, and HIV. They helped bring vaccines to millions in the world's poorest places. Bill traveled often, not to sell software but to listen, to learn, and to ask how he could help more people live better lives. He visited schools in Africa, clinics in India, and farms in South America. He met teachers, doctors, and local leaders. He didn't come with easy answers. He came with questions. He wanted to understand what was working and what needed to change. His money helped build clean water systems. It helped train health workers. It supported girls' education in many countries. People who once knew Bill as a tough tech boss began to see a softer side. A side driven by care, not just code. But he was still sharp, still focused. He brought data, charts, and facts into every meeting, even in remote villages. He believed that good ideas must be backed by numbers. Feelings mattered, but so did results. It was how he measured success. Meanwhile, Microsoft continued to grow under new leadership. New products came, and the world moved to mobile and cloud. Bill stayed involved as chairman, but more of his time was now in global health, education, and climate action. He partnered with other billionaires, asking them to give away most of their wealth to help the world's toughest problems. They called it the Giving Pledge. Bill was not just giving away money, he was changing how rich people thought about impact. He said, "It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to learn from failure." His failures taught him how to help. In interviews, he talked less about windows and more about toilets, clean energy, and school systems. He spent hours reading reports, studying food systems, and thinking about ways to stop the next big pandemic. Some people were surprised. How could a computer genius talk about farming and vaccines with such detail and care? But that was Bill Gates. A learner first, always reading, always asking, always curious about how to solve real problems. He said, "Don't compare yourself with anyone in this world. If you do so, you are insulting yourself." He believed every person had a unique path. His just happened to start with code and end with clean water and hope. Through it all, he remained a quiet man, still reading books, still taking notes, and still believing in the power of knowledge. His personal life changed too. In 2021, Bill and Melinda announced their divorce. It shocked many, but they stayed united in work. They continued leading the foundation together. Their shared goal to improve lives was bigger than any personal issue. As the world faced new challenges like climate change and global health threats, Bill was already working on solutions. He supported clean energy tech. He invested in new ways to grow food and protect the environment without harming it more. He wasn't just trying to fix today. He was planning for the next 50 years, for children not yet born. And through every step, he still believed in simple ideas: learn, solve, share, repeat. Part 7: Technology, Controversy, and Staying Human. With great power comes great attention. As Bill Gates gave more, the world also watched him more closely than ever. Some people began to question his motives. Why was a tech billionaire working on vaccines, farms, and energy? Social media spread rumors. Some said strange things. That he wanted to track people. That he caused sickness, not health. None of it was true. But in the digital age, lies travel fast, and Bill became a target of fear, envy, and conspiracy. He answered with calm facts. He gave interviews. He said, "I'm using my money to help people live longer, healthier lives." Still, not everyone believed him. And that was hard. But Bill didn't stop. He said truth doesn't need to shout, it needs to work. He stayed focused on real problems. He talked with scientists. He shared data. He funded research in quiet, careful steps. He knew his name came with power, so he tried to use it to open doors for experts who didn't have his platform. At the same time, technology was changing again. AI, machine learning, and automation were rising. The world was shifting fast. Bill saw both promise and danger. He believed AI could solve big problems, but only if used with wisdom and care. He warned about job loss, bias, and misuse. He asked leaders to act now, not later. To guide tech, not just chase profit. He kept learning. He read books on biology, economics, climate, and artificial intelligence. His curiosity never slowed down. He also began writing more books, essays, and blogs. Not about business, but about the future of humanity. He wanted people to think bigger. Not just about phones or apps, but about clean air, safe food, fair health, and smart energy. Bill said, "We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change in 10. He wanted people to prepare, not panic, to use knowledge as a tool, not as a weapon. Despite the noise online, many still trusted him. Presidents, scientists, and teachers listened to his words and studied his work. He visited schools and labs. He asked hard questions, not to prove he was smart but to help smart people do their best work. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. He admitted them. He believed growth only comes when we face our flaws with honesty. In public talks, he smiled rarely but deeply. When he spoke about children saved or diseases beaten, his eyes lit up. He once said, "Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose." So he stayed humble. He learned from young people, from farmers, from coders. He believed ideas can come from anywhere if we're ready to listen. Bill still believed in technology, but even more, he believed in people, in their ability to care, to act, and to change the world. He said, "We have to find the ideas that make life better, and we have to spread them fast." That was his new mission. Through every controversy, Bill stayed human, focused, curious, and calm even when the world around him got loud. He wasn't chasing headlines. He was chasing hope. Part 8. The Power of Books, Thinking, and Time. Behind all the success and public attention, Bill Gates has always remained a quiet thinker, a reader, a man of deep routine. Books were his closest friends. From childhood to now, they never left him. He said reading was the best way to learn fast. Every year, he reads around 50 books. From science to politics, from history to new technology, each book feeds his vision. He doesn't just read. He writes notes, underlines ideas, and reflects on every page. It's how he builds long-term thinking. Bill created something called Think Week. Twice a year, he disappears to a quiet cabin with nothing but books and paper. No meetings, no internet, just thinking. He spends the whole week reading, writing, and asking deep questions. It's in those weeks that many of his boldest ideas were born. Ideas that later shaped Microsoft and later, his foundation. He believed great ideas don't come from noise. They come from silence, focus, and space to think beyond the surface. Even in a fast world, Bill took time to pause. He wasn't chasing speed. He was chasing clarity, depth, and future impact. He once said, "If I had one superpower, it would be to read faster." Because to him, reading meant faster learning and action. His office was always full of books, new releases, old classics, research reports. He believed curiosity should never stop. He didn't pretend to know everything. Instead, he searched for people who knew more and listened carefully. He said, "I try to meet people who challenge me. That's how I grow." He wanted truth, not comfort. This habit of reflection helped him make better decisions. Whether in business, philanthropy, or life, thinking came first. Bill also believed in asking simple but hard questions. Why? What if? How can this be better? Those shaped his life. His days were simple. Wake early, read, write, meet with teams, walk, think, repeat. Every hour had a purpose. He didn't fill his time with noise. He managed time like code-efficient, precise, and always improving. He often used whiteboards to explain thoughts. Diagrams, arrows, loops. Ideas became visible, then actionable. Even in casual talks, he could shift from small talk to big ideas within seconds. His brain never sat still. Yet, he wasn't cold. He listened closely. He smiled when ideas landed. He gave praise when effort showed. Bill never forgot where he came from. A small boy in Seattle with a library card and a head full of questions. He often spoke at schools. He told students that knowledge was their power, that the world needed their minds, not just their hands. He said, "The future depends on what you do today. So learn today, think today, share today." That was his message. As the world became faster, noisier, and more complex, Bill Gates chose a path of stillness, depth, and lifelong learning. Books were his fuel. Ideas were his compass. Time was his most valuable currency. And through it all, he remained that same curious boy, just with a bigger library and a deeper mission. Part 9. Partnerships, Power Moves, and Private Struggles. Behind every strong empire are strong relationships. Bill Gates knew that success was never built alone. One of the most important people in his journey was Paul Allen. They started Microsoft together, but their paths grew apart. Paul left the company in the early years due to illness and other tensions. Still, Bill credited Paul as a key spark of Microsoft. Later in life, Bill spoke warmly of Paul. He said their shared vision built the bridge between dream and product. Another key figure was Steve Ballmer. Bill met Steve at Harvard. Years later, he hired him to help lead Microsoft. Steve brought energy, passion, and strong business drive. He became Microsoft's CEO when Bill stepped back. Together, they faced huge challenges. Competition from Apple and Google, changing tech landscapes, legal battles. Their styles were different. Bill was quiet, analytical. Steve was loud, emotional. But they respected each other deeply. In the public eye, Bill was the mind of Microsoft. But inside the company, he was also the architect of its culture. He built teams that worked fast, thought deeply, and handled pressure. But the work came with a cost. As Microsoft grew, so did the demands. Long hours, constant travel, stress, and pressure to always stay ahead. People close to Bill said he could be intense. He asked hard questions. He expected clear answers. Mediocrity was not allowed. He wasn't easy to work with, but he pushed people to be better, to think smarter, to care more. Still, this intensity affected his personal life. Time with family was limited. Friends were few. Balance was hard to find. He once said, "I didn't believe in weekends. I didn't believe in vacations." Work was his world. Everything else came second. Over time, this approach led to regrets. In later years, Bill began to speak more about health, balance, and emotional wisdom. He learned that great leadership also means knowing when to stop, breathe, and care for yourself and others. In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Bill was suddenly back in the spotlight. He had warned about pandemics years earlier. Old videos showed him giving talks, saying the world was not ready for the next big virus. People began to listen again. He used his foundation to fund vaccine research, help poor nations, and support health workers across the globe. But with attention came rumors again. Conspiracies, accusations, false claims. Some people feared what they didn't understand. Bill responded the same way he always had, with calm, data, and logic. He didn't fight fire with fire. He fought it with facts. He said, "When things are tough, that's when you build character." He used the crisis to unite, not divide. But in the background, his personal life faced more storms. In 2021, Bill and Melinda ended their marriage after 27 years. The news shocked the world. They had built so much together, both a business and a global movement of giving. They shared a short public message. They would continue their work together at the foundation. Their mission would not stop. Privately, the split was painful. Rumors surfaced about past behavior, difficult choices, and mistakes made. Bill didn't deny imperfection. He admitted to being deeply focused, sometimes too much. He said, "I need to do better." Through it all, he remained dedicated to helping others. Even with personal pain, his focus stayed on global problems. He didn't run from struggle. He worked through it, quietly, steadily, with the same spirit he brought to every hard bug in code. Because to Bill Gates, every problem, even the personal ones, deserved effort, honesty, and a solution. Part 10: Impact, Innovation, and Interchange. As the years passed, Bill Gates changed not just in age, but in mind, in heart, and in how he saw his place in the world. He still loved technology. He still followed innovation. But now, his thoughts turned more to legacy, fairness, and global impact. He asked himself new questions. Not what can I build, but what have I built, and what does it mean? His focus turned from code to climate, from products to people, from software updates to saving lives and futures. Bill became a loud voice in the climate fight. He wrote books, funded clean energy projects, and supported green startups. He believed tech had caused problems but could also fix them. Smarter farming, cleaner fuels, better cities. He pushed governments to act. He met with world leaders. He shared plans for cutting emissions and saving the planet. He said, "We need miracles, and we can create them with science, with urgency, and with shared responsibility." At the same time, he kept investing in health, malaria, HIV, nutrition, and child survival still held his full attention. He said the world should care about lives equally. Whether in New York or Nigeria, every life deserved protection and hope. He also grew interested in education. He believed learning was the great equalizer, the true driver of progress. He supported new schools, digital tools, and better training for teachers. He believed children deserved more than just screens. He said, "Technology is just a tool. In terms of getting kids working together and motivating them, the teacher is the key." His views on life grew wider. He wasn't trying to be perfect. He was trying to be useful. Every day, in some way, he met with scientists, farmers, students, and doctors. He listened more than he talked. He asked, "What do you need most?" He supported work that was quiet but powerful, like better toilets, smarter seeds, and vaccines stored without power. He believed small things could change millions of lives. And he didn't wait for praise. The work itself was enough. Bill also became more open about his personal growth. He spoke about mental health, emotional learning, and slowing down. He said he used to see things as problems to solve. But now, he sees people with stories, pain, and dreams beyond logic. He practiced mindfulness. He journaled. He walked alone. He learned to rest, to reflect, and to let go of what he couldn't control. He started to smile more, laugh more, and talk less about success and more about service. He wrote, "The older I get, the more I understand that kindness and patience are forms of intelligence too." He didn't leave the world of innovation, but he no longer needed to lead it. He wanted to lift others to lead instead. He used his money not to grow power but to grow possibilities. For others, for the forgotten, for the future. His foundation expanded. His reach became global. But he stayed the same, curious, focused, and calm. Bill Gates no longer chased change. He became change. Part 11: Lessons, Legacy, and the Road Ahead. Bill Gates has lived many lives in one. Student, coder, CEO, billionaire, philanthropist, visionary, but also human. He often said that learning never ends, and his life proved that. Every chapter brought new lessons and new versions of himself. He learned that success is not just about money or fame. It's about solving problems that matter to others, not just yourself. He learned that hard work alone is not enough. You need empathy, patience, and good people around you. He learned that no one has all the answers, and that question's deep. Simple, honest questions can move the world forward. He learned that listening is more powerful than speaking. That true leadership is about helping others grow. He said, "If you are born poor, it's not your mistake. But if you die poor, it's your mistake." He wanted to remove those barriers. He used his life to test ideas, to fail, to fix, to improve. Not just software but systems, health, and even his own thinking. In talks to students, he didn't talk much about money. He talked about time, about curiosity, about using what you have well. He reminded people that success is built in private through long hours, quiet study, and doing the hard work no one sees. He believed in measurable impact. That progress must be tracked, checked, and adjusted. Hope with data was his model. He also shared his regrets. He wished he had spent more time with family, more time being present, not just productive. He admitted he had blind spots, that he once believed intensity alone could fix anything, but life taught him otherwise. He talked about Melinda with respect, about their shared work, about their differences, and about moving forward with grace. He didn't hide from his flaws. He used them. He showed that even great builders are also human and growing. In his later years, Bill mentored others, young founders, scientists, teachers. He shared lessons, but never claimed perfection. He said, "Don't wait for the world to be ready. Start small. Learn fast. Do good." It became a quiet anthem for many. Books remained central. He still shared yearly reading lists. People around the world followed his suggestions to learn more. He didn't need a title anymore. Not CEO, not chairman, just a thinker, a helper, a global citizen with work still to do. He believed the next generation could go further, faster, smarter, if they chose to care more, and fear less. He said, "Technology is nothing without values. That knowledge without heart is dangerous. That kindness scales too." He left boardrooms and entered classrooms, clinics, and farms, wherever help was needed. He looked for answers, and in those quiet corners, he found meaning beyond markets. He found purpose in people, in their hope, pain, and joy. His legacy isn't just Microsoft. It's every child who got a vaccine, every student with a computer, every family with clean water. The road ahead is still long, but because of Bill Gates, it is brighter, smarter, and filled with more chances than ever before. Part 12. Closing the loop. The man behind the mind. As the years pass and the spotlight softens, people begin to ask deeper questions. Who is Bill Gates really? Beyond the billions, beyond the boards, beyond the books. Who is the person behind the global icon and relentless thinker? Those who know him say he is quiet, even shy, still curious, still intense, but also more open, more reflective, more human. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't chase attention. His joy comes from progress, from ideas turning into real-world help. At home, he still keeps a notepad beside his bed. He still reads late into the night. He still writes down questions that wake him. He eats simply, thinks deeply, plans carefully, but also he has learned to pause, to look back, to let moments settle. He once said, "The first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to inefficient operation magnifies it." But now, he talks more about people than processes, about trust, about wisdom, about care. He reflects on how far the world has come and how far it still needs to go. Poverty, climate, health, equality, truth. He believes that optimism is not ignoring problems but believing they can be solved through effort and courage. He supports young minds, invests in bold ideas, cheers for others, because he knows the next great change may not come from him, and that's okay. His mission now is to support, not control, to inspire, not direct, to plant seeds for others to grow. He spends time with researchers, with children, with leaders from countries big and small. He listens more than he speaks. He talks openly about death, not with fear, but with clarity. He says the question is not how long we live, but how well we live. He hopes to be remembered not for money, but for meaning, not for power, but for purpose, not for control, but for care. His biggest fear is not failure, it's wasted potential. Lives lost not from lack of talent, but from lack of opportunity. He said, "Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. So he keeps walking, one step at a time, supporting science, funding change, telling the truth. Even when it's hard, he does not pretend to be perfect, but he tries to be useful. And in this world, that is a legacy far stronger than fame." He once asked, "What's the next problem we're not solving fast enough?" And that remains his guiding question. His life now is a loop. From a curious boy in Seattle to a global figure who still wonders what's possible. No longer just the mind behind Microsoft, but the soul behind silent revolutions, one school, one clinic, one idea at a time. Bill Gates is not finished, because the work of hope, of healing, of helping never truly ends. Part 13. Final Reflections. What we can learn from Bill Gates. The story of Bill Gates is not just about one man. It is about the power of thought, the impact of focus, and the reach of action. It shows us that brilliance means little without hard work, that talent must be trained, that curiosity must be fed. It teaches us that failure is not the end. It is a teacher, a sharp one, but a guide if we dare to listen. It reminds us that progress doesn't come from comfort. It comes from questions, from courage, and from late nights spent thinking. Bill's life tells us that being smart is not enough. To lead, to last, to matter, you must also be kind and clear. He did not become who he is because he followed trends. He became who he is because he followed questions. From asking how computers work to asking how to stop malaria, his journey was powered by the same fuel, curiosity. We learn that money alone doesn't build legacy, but how we use our gifts, skills, time, or wealth can build a better world. Bill's success did not protect him from pain. He faced loss, pressure, and mistakes, but he kept showing up. He kept asking, "How can this be better? Who is being left behind? What can I learn from this failure?" His story shows us that books can change lives. That quiet thinking beats loud noise. That purpose beats praise. He teaches us that ideas can come from anywhere, from a teenage friendship, from a dusty book, From a quiet moment alone, he never claimed to be perfect, but he tried to grow, and he opened the door for others to do the same. If you are young and full of dreams, Bill's life says, start small, think big, don't stop learning. If you are older and feel behind, his life says, it's not too late. Change is always possible. Growth never ends. If you have power, his story says, use it with care, lift others, give, serve, and don't lose your soul chasing success. If you feel invisible, it says, you matter. Ideas matter. Even a kid reading in silence can shape the future of billions. Bill Gates is not a superhero. He is a thinker who acted, a man who read, a leader who listened, a builder who cared. His life is still being written, but the chapters we have so far are rich with lessons for anyone willing to learn. We don't all have to build tech empires, but we can build trust, build kindness, build value wherever we are. The world needs more minds like Bill Gates, not just to invent, but to invest in others, not just to win, but to uplift. So the question now becomes, what will you do with what you know? What will your story be? Because as Bill has shown us, change starts with one mind, one question, and one choice to begin. And from that choice, anything is possible. Thank you for spending your time with us. We hope this story gave you new ideas, new hope, and new energy. Bill Gates started small, but he never stopped learning. Maybe you can do the same. Keep asking questions, keep dreaming big, and remember, your story matters too. See you in the next episode. Take care, and keep going forward.